Hi, thanks for coming, you guys. Thank you so much. We're going to do a pitch deck workshop today. I am Zoe Dovmani. If you don't already know me, I am a brand strategist and designer. I'm super excited to share with you how I can help you today. I'm a founder of an agency called Helloë Creative. And first, just a little bit about my background. I've been working on branding and design of these brands that you see here and others for the last 10 years. Fun stuff, but you'll notice that none of them are climate solutions. And that whole time I was always doing stuff at home that was very, sustainability always mattered a lot to me. And I would do things at home like reuse my plastic and compost things and participate in zero waste systems like Blue Land. But ultimately I knew that this was providing trace impact to the massive climate crisis that we are dealing with. And so I want to take the skills that I developed at these places and use them to help you guys articulate and amplify your message to have the greatest impact that you can. Because at the end of the day, I am not an engineer, I'm not a scientist, I'm a storyteller and a designer. And I think this is probably the best way that I can help the situation. So pitch decks, the thing that we are here to talk about today. So first of all, I'm going to show you some best practices and things to think about when you are building a pitch deck. And then we're going to look at a real pitch deck and see how we can improve it. If you're just now coming in, can you please turn on your cameras? We're going to have this be as interactive as possible. I don't want you guys to just be sitting there watching this like boring presentation. I want it to be fun and interactive, and I want you to connect with people and learn things. And it's really nice for me to be able to see your faces too. So I'm going to ask you all a question, and this is not a rhetorical question. What is the point of a pitch deck? And if you could just answer in the chat, or if you feel so inclined, take yourself off mute and answer. Maybe put your hand up and I'll call on you. I see sell. Get funded. What's the point of a pitch deck is the question we're asking. And I'm going to start writing these here. Sell, get funded, tell your company's story and the problem you're solving, and appeal to investors, get interest for a real meeting, get follow-up meeting. Good. I see a hand up. Oh, how do I help me with your name, and please tell me how to pronounce your name, and then tell us what your answer is.
Yes, thank you, Zoe. Do you go by Zoe or Zoe?
It's Zoe.
Zoe, yes. So it's Nakarori.
Nakarori. Okay, Nakarori. Yes. What's the point of a pitch deck?
To find a win-win for collaboration between myself and the person I'm pitching to.
Oh, I like that a lot. To find a win-win for collaboration between myself and the person I'm pitching to.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Great. So we have, I have a typo. We have sell, still have a typo. Okay. We have sell, get funded, tell your company's story and the problem you're solving and appeal to investors, get interest for a real meeting, get a follow-up meeting, same thing, find a win-win for collaboration between myself and the person I'm pitching to. And I also see, Wilson, you put to screen potential investors.
Yeah, I think by knowing what type of questions they ask, then you know what they're interested in, and then you can see whether there's actually areas of mutual interest.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, if they all they're interested is just the ROI and that's all they see, and then that's maybe it's something to be concerned about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, so now I want us all to use our imaginations and step out of your own shoes and into the shoes of a VC. So you're in the office, the sun is setting, you're ready to go home and see your family, but you've been tied up in Zoom calls all day. Your inbox is a hot mess. You're feeling a lot of pressure. You're feeling pressure like you gotta get home to see the kids. Your fund, you're managing this fund, you got to make sure you're putting the cash in the right places. You open up one of your emails and you see a link to a pitch deck. You with me? So now, what's the point of the pitch deck? And again, please just drop your answers in the chat or come on mic, or put your hand up first. Or just take yourself off mic, actually, because like if you have something to say, because it's a small enough group that I don't think we need to do hands. So grab attention. So let's remember we are this person right now. So it's to grab my attention. I'm gonna use that first person language, grab my attention.
Yeah, along those lines, just to get excited about something.
Get me excited. I'm looking at a million emails. To filter. Zora, tell me more about this.
Yeah, the way I was thinking about it is you probably have 20 to maybe 100 that you need to go through. So very, very fast way for you to basically decide like what you want to find out more about and what you're just not interested in. Very fast way to find out what you want to find out more about. And what was the end of what you said? And what you probably aren't interested in. And what you probably aren't interested in. Great. And continuing in this line of thinking, how am I going to know, me, this guy, how am I going to know what's my filter? How am I going to know what I want to find out more about and what I'm probably not interested in? I think in general, like a lot of them might have an investment thesis. So does it fit in the investment thesis? Are you at the stage that is the sweet spot? So either the amount that you're raising, the traction that you have, the industry, or the customer that you're serving. Awesome. Okay. Can you list those again really quickly? Can you list those again? Is my sweet spot, is it in the industry that I'm familiar with and that I want to invest in? Mm-hmm. And there was more too. It was like investment stage. Oh yeah. Yeah. So like basically, does it have the traction that I'm looking for? Cool. Oh, geez. Hersey says prioritize.
Yeah, what I mean by that is basically after filtering, there's still a lot of companies. And in order to figure out which ones are the top priorities, probably like how much of a fit this company is to the investment thesis and to what they're looking for.
Okay, so you're saying first they filter it and then they prioritize it?
Yeah, I assume investors can't just go about like 100 companies at the same time if they all made it to the filter.
Okay, so first they're filtering it like this, and then they're prioritizing using the same questions, but it's like, how much does it fit in my investment?
Yeah, there might be some like quantitative things that they can use to measure, to prioritize. For example, how large is the target market? What's the potential revenue that this company is bringing based on their business model, things like that.
What else? What's the point of a pitch deck? I would say that, and these are all great answers, and this is kind of all getting at, in a broad way, what's in it for me? Oh, I see another one, to make, thank you, Sam, to make an idea tangible. Sam, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I think it kind of gets to your what's in it for me, meaning can you even at a very early stage show me something that's of value to me, or that goes from beyond a simple textual to a picture or prototype? Can you introduce me to the concept, get me excited, bring something out of a mental conception into something that's more physical and tangible?
I'm hearing a lot too of get me excited. Which yeah, this guy wants to be excited. This guy's tired. So what's in it for me? And I want to just linger on this a little bit, because most of you are climate founders and you have these really awesome missions, but you probably know this already, but your climate impact, even if it has really great potential, it's still not enough for this guy at the end of the day. Like, it's got to line up. He needs to want the same thing as you. But he's also an investor. Like, he wants a return. So he wants to feel secure. So I want to always, when we are making any communication piece, whether it's our pitch deck or our website, or even writing an email, on the phone with someone, we often start with the question, what do I need to say? I'm going to change that to I here. We're just going to edit this live. What do I need to say? But that's not really a useful question. What is a more useful question is, what do they need to hear? And this is a mistake that everybody makes, myself included. And I think this is a really great little tool to reframe pretty much every time I'm trying to communicate. What do they need to hear? So what does this guy need to hear? Well, first of all, before he can get excited or filter or even like start to assess whether this is a good decision for him to make, he needs to know what it is. This can be really tough, especially if we have a really complicated product, but super important. So what is it? Why does it matter? Why is it better? Also known as your positioning. And why you? Why should I
So will
invest
we
in
get
you? Go ahead.
will we get a copy of the slide deck?
Yeah, I'm going to send you the recording. So
Thank you.
yes. Thank you for asking. Notice it is not, is it pretty? It is also not, how many words are on the slide? Or not even, will it save the world? And I want to go back into this one because you might find it, I realize you might find it odd since I'm a designer that I'm telling you it doesn't matter if your deck is pretty. But I want to just reiterate that design is a tool. So it can make things pretty, and that could definitely help, but pretty isn't the point. So if you're not clear on your message, pretty can't help you. And if your message is getting muddled, pretty might help you a little bit, but design as a tool can help you. So your design pretty isn't working for you unless your design is working for you as a tool. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more now. I want you to think of your pitch deck as a machine that does one thing. The one thing that your pitch deck does is convey a single, clear message. And everything within it supports that message. So just like this machine, which is what we're going to call it, each little part works in service of its overall purpose. So each part of your deck, that is each slide, and then each piece within each slide, so the text, the photos, the charts, whatever, works in service of your overall message. And speaking of being pretty, notice how even the color here helps you understand what the machine is for. And so imagine if the lemon squeezer had a third handle. Would that help us or would that hurt us in using the device? Donald Miller, the author of StoryBrand, famously said, if you confuse, you lose. So I want to talk about some of the tools that we have in our toolkit to help this VC at his desk at Sunset understand and not get confused or lost. So what is in our toolkit? Well, the most obvious thing we have are words. And words are great. We love words. But if we have too many words, our words don't work anymore. No one is going to read your wall of text. I see this a lot. I know that you have lots of really important, valuable things to say. But they don't, but no one's going to read them if there's too many of them. And I want to also make sure that we are all on the same page that jargon is hot lava and we don't touch it. Can anyone tell me another tool that we have in our toolkit for pitch decks? We have words so far. What else do we have other than words?
Graphics.
Graphics. Thank you, Matt. Graphics. Yes. I am going to take you to, so I don't have a chart called, I don't have a slide called graphics, but I have a slide called icons. Are you thinking icons or are you thinking more like charts?
Any of the above, just kind of
Choose your own
visual,
adventure.
any visual media that's not words that kind of helps you communicate something.
Great. Yeah. Visual media that is not words that helps you communicate something. So I'm going to go to icons. That's one of those. Icons are illustrations. And then we want to just always make sure that your visual, your graphic elements are in service of your message and not confusing, distracting, or essentially detracting. So something like this, lightning bolt, this is all about being fast. This helps us digest this information without even totally reading all of it. This one here is an example of something that's not working, specifically this icon right here of like the puzzle piece with the @ sign. It's not really helping us understand anything. And when that happens, you're starting to confuse and lose people. Another graphic element, charts and graphs. Obviously, we see a lot of these in pitch decks. Good charts are idiot proof. Can anyone tell me who the top lemon producer in the world was in 2021? I hope so.
Mexico.
Yes, thank you. How easy was it to know that? I mean, it's like you don't even really have to look at the numbers. You don't even have to read all this stuff. It's like, what's the biggest thing? It's this thing. And what are the biggest words? It's these ones. And it's super obvious. Now, can anybody tell me what this is about? I don't know, because I didn't bother to read it. And nobody is. I mean, unless they like work at this place. So definitely don't make me do math. Or this is another example where it's like, yeah, it's visual and it is kind of pretty. But I still have even if this chart had a title, I still would be like lost. Because I'd have to do a whole lot of, I'd have to read. And like, I know your chart can totally make sense, but if you're making somebody read through a lot of stuff and comb through a lot of information to like extract what the point of it is, they're just not going to do that work. So you want to do all of the work for them. So if you do have a chart like this, tell me what the point is so I don't have to figure anything out. Like put it in your title, call stuff out for me, make it idiot proof. Not that your VCs are idiots, they just don't have time. Another tool we have is photography. I don't see this as much, but it is a really powerful tool. As they say, photo is worth a million words. And I'm going to put videos in the same category there. And again, we just want to always make sure that we're using them to drive home our message. So some good examples of photos here. Obviously, photos of your product, people using your product, even better. The world your product lives in. So this photo doesn't actually have the product in it, but I still think it's relevant and it really helps. You know, we talked about this guy kind of just helping him like put him in context and like wrap his head around like what this thing is. So even a photo like this can be good in that scenario. Please don't put stock robot people in your presentation. They don't help you. They're not real. They're distracting most of all. They're distracting and like a little cringy, but mostly they're just distracting. Nothing about this is like helping my my understanding of the situation. We also have links, which I don't see as often, and I would like to. And what I love about links is that they allow you to be very succinct, but still provide more layers of information if someone chooses to learn more. So they're actually really powerful. And so those are kind of our main tools. And now I want to go over to a deck from Neil, who has bravely volunteered to have us workshop his deck. So Neil, I'm going to share your deck from my computer. And if you could just tell us, well, let me do one thing at a time here. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Zoe, can I ask a quick question on links?
Yes.
So is that inclusive of like a reference for a statistic, for instance, or like, would you shorten a website into something that is easily copyable, or like, is that supposed to be something that someone could kind of see and then sort of on their phone go and find, or you're assuming that they have the deck in front of them, they can copy paste and, you know, find it on their own that way? Like, I guess, how digestible are you thinking when you talk about links? Like, what's that format look like for you?
I think I'm a little bit lost about your question.
Sorry. Yeah. So the first part was around like if you have some statistics or something you're claiming, often I would put like a reference to that. Say if it's like a journal article or something, just a little footnote. So that's one question. Second being, if you do have like a website, for instance, that you're referencing where you could find more information about something, is that the sort of thing where you would create like a bit.ly or something that's very small and succinct that they could sort of like visually see and, you know, figure out without having the deck in front of them, to kind of copy paste on the computer, or you're fine with just sort of a long, like just a button that says link that otherwise visually doesn't say anything? Does that make sense?
Okay, so your first question about the wait,
Like a reference to
so,
a
yeah.
journal
So
article.
yes, I would definitely do that. Your second question, whether you want to make it a bit.ly or a long URL.
Yeah, or is it just a button that, you know, that doesn't, you visually has no information, but if you have the deck on your computer,
Just a button.
Okay.
Yeah, just a button. Nobody wants to look at URLs, even if they're bit.lys. But you want to make sure it like looks like a thing that you can click on, whether it's underlined or it looks like a button. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna put this over here and share my screen again. So Neil, can you quickly tell us just a little bit about your company?
Yeah, thanks, Zoe. And I have to give a shout out to Evan Hines, who's in the room there. I didn't realize you were there until right now, Evan. So I'm actually part of Evan's climate-based fellowship. So if you've not looked into that, definitely check out climate-based. But
welcome, Evan.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be part of that journey. So I feel like I've been seeing Evan's face every day for 10 days so far. But yeah, so TWBC, we're a climate-focused nonprofit, just like many others that are here. But our specific focus is looking to fill in data gaps that currently exist. And it's complicated because many people, even people that are in the climate space, don't know that these data gaps exist. So we kind of have to highlight that first to try and help them understand that there is actually a problem that we're trying to solve. And then we do that via using a piece of wearable tech that is able to make our climate observations. And then through a system, and you'll see this in the deck, we're able to then share that information with scientists in the hope that we can offer them a tool to, to build capacity and problem solve. So that's the gist of it.
Perfect. Thank you. And tell me a little bit about your deck. How long have you been working on it? How many versions have you made? And what tools did you use to make it?
So it's funny, until you asked me for this deck a couple of days ago, I hadn't even looked at this deck since 2020. I realized that I didn't look at it at all in 2021 because we had not gone to ask, we'd not gone to a private source of funds outside of grant writing since late 2020. So the whole of 2021 was just grant writing. So the only thing I changed was maybe an updated logo somewhere and maybe a couple of dates. But aside from that, I really didn't change it. I really wanted to use this as an exercise to learn. And it's funny because as part of climate-based fellowship, I've been learning a lot. So it's interesting to be able to use both of these mediums today to build my knowledge. So thank you.
Great. And can you tell us a little bit, I'm gonna actually make my frame a little bit bigger so you guys can all see. Can you tell us a little bit about your structure? Because I noticed there's 10 slides, which is short, and that's good. Why 10 slides? Does each slide have a purpose? Is it like, does it follow the get backed structure?
Yeah, we wanted to make it as succinct as possible, purely from a time standpoint that it takes to digest this information. If you're just briefly, like you say, sitting in front of your computer, reading email, It's a couple of things. One, it's a tool to get a little bit of interest to set up that meeting for a formal pitch. The slides, each slide really looks at a concept and is supposed to be delivered with, deliver a short message per slide, but then realize that the reader needs to realize that there's more to understand there that would give us the option to elaborate if it was in person. But yeah, intentionally short, kind of like a speed deck.
Awesome. And this is a read-through deck, correct?
It's a read-through deck that hopefully will, spur enough interest for someone to want to listen to a bit more.
Okay, great.
To prompt questions.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Okay, great. And if I were the guy in the VC guy that we were looking at a picture of earlier, what would I find the most compelling about your company overall?
That's a very hard question to answer because it depends on what the working knowledge is of the situation. If they know a little bit.
But without, I'm going to, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you, but only in service of us learning here. So what's in it for me?
Well, like I said, it depends on how much they know. If they realize that this is a disruption of the way that science is collected, then, which is the ultimate goal, we want them to realize that this is a disruption of the way that people go out and collect science. It then presents an opportunity, not only to service climate, but also to service their interest. But as I spend more time doing this stuff, I realize that it's very difficult to offer a short-term exit strategy in the climate space. It takes a much more patient and risk-tolerant type venture.
Okay. So, tell me, I'm gonna tell you what I heard and tell me if this is correct. If I'm the VC, what's in it for me is that this product is a disruption of the way that science is collected. Therefore, that means that this is an opportunity to service my interest, and it's an opportunity to service climate. Okay. Yep. I'm not sure if I want to get into how it can service my interest right now, because I feel like we could get really in the weeds with that. And I want to give you guys some like tangible takeaways here. So if that is sort of our working message, I want to look at each slide and evaluate, is this slide making me feel that this is a disruption of the way science is collected? It's an opportunity to service climate, and it's an opportunity to service my interest, which is like a long way of saying I think it will make me money. Is that correct?
In a way, yes.
Okay. I mean, if I'm an investor, money's pretty top of mind, I think. So
I have to caveat this deck just slightly, because I realized that the deck that I'm looking at was not actually aimed at a venture capitalist. This particular deck was aimed at a very important climate partnership that we actually managed to make.
Oh, so wow!
This deck was successful for its particular aim, but that person was already working, or that group was already or do work inside the climate space. So this particular deck wasn't aimed at venture capital.
Okay, that's super important. So this deck was aimed at a marketing partnership or a partnership?
A partnership, yes.
And was the message still, if they realize that they need to realize it's a disruption of the way science is collected?
Yes.
Opportunity to service climate. Opportunity to make them money?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. What was in it for them, other than what I just mentioned?
outside of those things, I don't think that there's an opportunity other than through collaboration, also servicing their own need for social proofs as they move forward, saying that they're doing anything particularly good.
Servicing their own need for social proof. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that organizations and partnerships quite often feel the need to collaborate with each other so that they themselves can service their own agendas by showing that they're collaborating with other organizations or entities.
Yeah. Okay, that totally makes sense. We have 20 minutes left. So let's maybe spend 10 minutes looking at a couple slides. I'm going to click through these a little bit. Let's look at this one. So we know what your overall message is. We just talked about it. What is this might seem really obvious because you made it your headline, but what's the overall message of this slide?
That particular slide looks at a willingness of citizens to want to do more.
Okay.
They're looking for a way to engage in climate.
Okay. So estimated percent of adults who think citizens should do more to address global warming. 64%, that's a lot. 2019. And then we have it all broken out by county. And then the darker red ones are higher concentrations of people who think that we should do more to address global warming. Okay, and then we have a quote over here. Outdoor enthusiasts become citizen scientists by helping to measure and monitor the environment they love. Case consultants internationals pleased to present and participate in 2 degrees. Okay, so this over here is like social proof for you, right?
Yep.
Okay, we need
I
millions
see a
of
mistake in it.
we need millions of eyes around the world keeping up with what's happening. Citizen science is really important to help us keep our thumb on the pulse of the planet. Okay, and then this is somebody backing up like what you're doing.
Yeah, both of those two people are kind of big players in climate.
Okay. So listening to what you just told me, it sounds like the sort of point of this slide is, or the point of the graph is a lot of people think we should be doing more.
That's right.
And then this part is Marjorie, who is a big deal, thinks we are cool. Is that correct?
Pretty much. She'd love to hear you say that.
And then the point of this is Catherine Hayhoe, if I'm saying that correctly,
yeah.
Thinks that, so Catherine, who is also a big deal, thinks like this topic is important.
Yep. Yeah, citizen science specifically. The purpose of this particular one is citizen science or community science, as it's known now. It's, kind of elevating that into the discussion.
Okay. So, looking at the title of this slide, and I want to open this up to everyone. is the title telling us the things that I just said? So the things that I just said were, a lot of people think we should be doing more. Marjorie thinks we're cool. And Catherine thinks this topic is important. I actually lost my chat. So if you guys are saying anything, I can't, oh, there it is. Okay. So what I would say here is that this title, although true, I think that what we're looking at here isn't necessarily supporting what this title is. But the things that we're looking at here are definitely supporting our overall message, which is that this is a disruption of the way science is collected, and it's an opportunity. So I'm still not fully convinced that that all this stuff actually belongs on the same slide right now, but I think that's like a bigger conversation. So just to look at like how we could make this slide better, since we don't have that much time left. Here's what I would do. I would, first of all, I would look at this chart. If the big takeaway from this chart is a lot of people think we should be doing more, I think we should first of all say that in plain English. Possibly in a call out somewhere. And then all of these words like select question, absolute value, national, states, congressional, blah, 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 like Chicago, Atlanta, like these are all words that are asking for my attention that aren't really serving the point. So I don't want to see any of them. So I would, and I'm going to mark up your deck with my red pen. I would get rid of all
now
this.
Look at it. I think it's better to ditch the map in entirety.
Tell me more about that.
Well, I think just like you say, I think you're right. You could probably get the point across much quicker just by ditching the map and putting there, the 64% in that particular example.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And then how can we show visually without the map with a different vehicle the same thing?
I mean, if I was going to make it now, I would make it probably an image of people out there doing something with a big 64 over the top of it, and then you'd have to explain it. But that's my go-to thought.
That's a great idea. So yeah, an image of someone doing the thing. Or if we wanted to stay in the chart realm, I would, sorry for my big red X. I should like make it pink because it's kind of, look at this right here. This is super simple. And then I would just add words to give it color. I don't know if we even need this blue part. But like, hey, 64% of people in the United States think we should be doing more. So imagine if this slide only had, maybe it didn't have this either. And we had this underneath this, maybe we had this more up front and center. And the title was something like, people agree we should be doing more. That could be workshopped, but I'm hoping you guys are taking something away from this. That's like, make it, a lot of times we think that we're like hammering somebody over the head with information. And so sometimes we even pull back. We're like, oh, I don't want to, go too hard on this or whatever, but it's like, no, hammer someone over the head with your information. and make it idiot proof so that they can just scroll right through it, see it in 4 seconds, and like, without going too deep, just at least get an idea of like what matters about this. And then with these, I see Kimberly saying 1 topic per slide, move the Marjorie and Catherine feedback to a testimonial slide. Yeah, that would be a good idea. You could do that. The other thing that's occurring to me is that this is kind of like a social proof slide. So you're saying all these people think so does Marjorie, so does Catherine, although Marjorie and Catherine aren't really talking about the same thing that these people are. So never mind. Okay, moving on. If we're gonna quote Marjorie, which we should, I'd put a little picture of her face in there. And then I would, this is even still kind of a lot of text to read. If you can cut it down at all, do that. If you can't cut it down, bold the stuff that's the most important. So I would say the most important here is like this. Case Consultants International is pleased to participate in 2 degrees Celsius efforts. Marjorie McGurk. That's the big takeaway. So bold it, make it bigger, maybe leave this white and leave the other part grayer is like another way you can call things out. And then with this one, I would make this shorter. Citizen science is important to help us keep our thumb. I think probably just the second half. I don't think we need the first sentence there, assuming that the person watching this knows what citizen science means, because I think that is a little bit of jargon. I know I mentioned jargon was hot lava, but it's also like who your audience is. So Neil mentioned that his audience was a very specific, it was one organization. And he knew that they were going to know who these people are and they were going to know what citizen science is.
Right.
Yeah. So Neil, how are you feeling about this slide now?
Oh, I love it. That was not one of my favorite slides, so I'm happy to ditch it. Change
Great.
it.
Okay. Another thing that I'm just seeing that's just kind of like a best practice in design is these are tight margins, and tight margins like stress people out. We don't want people to be stressed. So you just always want to give like your text and your images lots of breathing room, unless it's something that bleeds off the edge, which is like this globe. But obviously this is not a like main, this is more of like, I don't know, a decoration, I suppose I might say, like, it's not like, well, we can get to the purpose of it in a minute, but anyways, so margins, I would make them fatter. This I might make smaller or more transparent so that it guides our eyes to the most important part on the page, which is going to be this graph, whether it's this or a pie chart, and like the big words that are saying whatever we've said before. A lot of people think we should be doing more. Yeah, and then this earth image over here, I think that's good. I think I would make it a lighter transparency. I think something for me, I would make it a way lighter transparency if I used it at all. I don't love, this is like a really nitpicky design thing that like I wouldn't expect you to know. But like there's this like fat line weight of the outside of the globe. And then there's these like teeny little, it's like super detailed. It's like super detailed on the edges of the countries. And then like this line weight is like sort of like doing something with it that my eyes don't like. So I don't know if I would pick that particular image of the earth, but it's not terrible. And I do think it does help us kind of get it's not off topic or distracting, as long as it's not, as long as it's like knocked back a little bit. And by knocked back, I mean just like more transparent.
Yeah, I do want to mention that when this deck was made, some of the tools were not available. This particular deck was made in collaboration with my team that are distributed, California, well, not California, Washington State and North Carolina and Florida, where I am. So we used Google Slides to build the deck. And now I think there are better tools like Canva and things that offer you a bit more flexibility to put a more polished look on something. So
that's totally, yeah, that's a great that's a great point. And I so we've run out of time. I feel like I could do this whole day, but thank you so much, Neil, and for being such a rock star with taking me, marking up your deck and publicly telling you what was not working about it.
Thank you.
And thank you for trusting me and for trusting all of us and knowing that, all this stuff is in the interest of learning, right? It's not about you. It's not even about your company. It's just about this one slide. And is this serving the purpose that we just discussed? That's it. And I recommend, as you guys, like, when people look at your stuff, I know, like, if you're founders, I'm sure you are pretty used to getting critical feedback. But just that's kind of a tool that I use as a designer, is like when other people are criticizing my stuff, it's like, the only thing we're evaluating here is, does this thing do the thing that I'm trying to make it do? And that way it's completely outside of me or my company. It's a whole other thing that we're looking at. So with that said, if you don't want to do this yourself and you want me to do it for you, I have a service called the 1 week pitch deck. It's exactly what it sounds like. I do your pitch deck in a week. Here's the daily breakdown. Basically, it's a few meetings and I'll take care of it. So if you need a deck and you're ready for this, or you think you might be ready soon, I am currently booking for 6 weeks out, which puts us in April. So you can visit my website, have a look. I think Mohammed put a link in the chat. If you think you might be interested, but you're not sure, you want to learn more, you can book a free call with me. That's also at the same link. And if you're not interested at all and you just want to hang out with me at my webinar, that's also really awesome. And I really, really appreciate you being here. It's not lost on me that I'm in a room full of founders whose time is very precious. So I want to wholeheartedly say thank you for giving me your time. And I hope to see you again soon. And please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear from you. And there should be a form. Yeah, Mohammed just also put it in the chat. The form is just for feedback to like help me make cool stuff for you guys. So again, Evan, yes.
Hey, Zoe, this was really awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I joined, unfortunately, I joined like 20 minutes late, so I missed the first part, but I think it's great. We have 150 fellows in our climate-based fellowship. I would say a large minority of whom are sort of idea stage or just sort of getting started, like MVP kind of stage. I think a workshop would be awesome. This workshop would be great. I'd love to invite you to come give this presentation to our fellows if you're interested.
Thank you so much. That sounds awesome. Let's connect maybe on email, which I have right here.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds super cool. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
And Zora, I think, asked about pricing. So the 1 week pitch deck is $10,000 if you get funded. If you don't get funded, it's $2,500. So to reserve a week on my calendar and get the whole deck, that's $2,500. Later, when you get funded, you can pay the rest. And if you don't get funded, then just keep your money. So are there any other questions before I shut it down? No, I'm not seeing anything. Okay. Well, thank you guys again so much. Hope to see you around, and please do connect with me on LinkedIn, email me.